Hi everyone, it's Mia from Rose Nails by Marissa Coombs, and this is obviously not a conventional nail video today. I had some wood shavings given to me by my lovely better half, and like some of the wood shavings had like the way they curled up looked like the middle of a rosebud. So I was like, I need to try and do this. So here's the wood shavings. That's the little bit like that curled up that I was like, oh, we could do this. We could do this. So I've cut this little bit of the wood shavings for the centre of the rose because we're going to work from the inside out of the rose. And I'm just going to get some rubber base coat and kind of splodge it on the end that is going to be attached to the base. As you can see, I kind of made like a little base out of top coat and put a magnet into it because I wanted a magnet on the back of this so that it could be attached to the fridge or whatever. This was really tricky to do and very fiddly. So I'm just going to use some signature gel on the top of this base on the magnet that I'm using. And sort of this is what I'm going to build my rose on top of. I do make the base a lot bigger in a minute because I needed a lot more space for all the petals. But I really liked how it turned out actually, and I like it when I have like a balmy idea in my head and I just kind of run with it. So I'm just doing this on the backing paper of a form so that it doesn't stick to anything. And this is my rubber base coated centre of the rose that I'm going to stick very gently into that signature gel before I cure it. And then I'm going to get pieces of the like little thin strips of wood and round off the edges to make my petals. So I want to make sure that they're quite nice and round, no sort of sticky outy bits. And I'm going to start off with smaller petals and then move on to larger petals as I get to the outside of the rose. Hope that makes sense. So here's my first petal shape, and I'm curing everything as I go along, and I'm going to use rubber base coat from SBD London to stick all of these pieces down. That bit didn't want to stay down. It did not want to do what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to get base coat and just literally plonk it on the base of the rose where I want this next petal to be. Hold it in place any minute now, and then use my SBD London UV torch to just kind of set it into place before I pop it into the lamp for a full cure. And as I work my way outwards from the centre of the rose, I'm going to like make bigger gaps in between the petals so that they sort of spay, like, I don't know what the word is I'm trying to use here, but like so that they sort of go outwards. And each of these petals needs to be bigger and sort of longer each time. Some of the pieces were quite tricky to use. These wood shavings are thin. They are so easy to break, so I was having to be really, really careful with them. Some of them did tear as I was using them. And some of them had like little wiggly edges on, which I tried to use to my advantage a little bit, like especially as I go towards the outside petals, so that they kind of looked a bit more realistic and had that kind of movement in them that a rose would have. So as you can see, I'm kind of like overlapping each petal and then trying to stick it in place. This was such a random project to do, but I really, really, really liked how it turned out. It took about 2 hours, I think, in total. And this was purely just because I really, really wanted to do it. So this is when I was like, yeah, I'm going to need more of a base for this to sit on. So I've just got some more of the signature gel and I'm putting it onto the backing paper from a form and just using some of the slip solution from SBD London signature gel to form it into a circle. And then once I've formed my circle, I'm going to get my brush and like make a big dip in the middle, because if I didn't put a big dip in the middle, it would have been the product would have been too thick, and the magnet I've put in the rose wouldn't have been able to get through that product to still be able to be magnetized to a fridge. So once it's in a circle, I'm going to like make a dip so that product is so thin in the middle. And then I'm going to stick that magnet with the top coat and the other signature gel on it right in the middle. Very gently squeeze it down and then put it in for a full 60-second cure. I'm just using, what I've got in my hand at the moment is just a bobby pin, like a hair bobby pin that I've stretched out. Originally, I did think that I would be able to like hold the rose on it just while I was working on it, but it kept wobbling off. But the bobby pin was really useful. So you'll see me using that a lot while I'm trying to sort of hold petals into place and cure them at the same time and sort of curl the petals like round each other. It just got really fiddly. The more outside of the rose I went, the more fiddly it got. But it was so much fun to do. And I do have, my niece was at the house at the time, my little 11-year-old niece. So she comes in every now and again. You'll see a random third hand that's doing the torch for me. And that's when I was holding these like bits of petal in place and going like, oh, I can't do the torch now. So my niece helped me with that. So I'm just going to keep cutting these petal shapes. As you can see, I'm making them longer and longer and longer each time. Some of the wood did like separate and peel. And then on like as I was working outwards with the petals, I had to try and sort of very, very gently put the wood in at an angle so it kind of tilted outwards and bend the wood slightly so it would kind of splay outwards a little bit. As you can see on this petal, I haven't done the edges of the petal. I've only sort of secured the middle. And then I'm going to use a blob of rubber base coat to just secure the edges exactly where I want them. If I didn't do this, then the petal came inwards too much and stayed far too close to the centre of the rose. And obviously at this point I'm trying to make the petals go outwards, not inwards. This bit did not want to stick. I was saying naughty, naughty words at this bit because it was driving me insane. And my torch was starting to run out of charge. So in a minute I do have to stop using my torch and I just use my normal lamp. But it was a lot trickier to try and get my hand and the petal and stay in the right position into the lamp just to flash cure it so I could let go. I have now charged up my lamp because the SBD, sorry, not my lamp, my torch. The SBD torches are USB charged, so which I love because then I don't have to worry about batteries and things like that. So that's all charged now. Look, the other end bloody popped off. I was like, really? Really? I'm working so hard here and it's so fiddly. This was probably the most annoying petal, I think, because it just did not want to stick down. But I got there in the end. And that bobby pin came in so flipping handy. It was ridiculous. So back to the other side. Stick it down. I think at this point my niece's hand comes in. Oh no, still me. Still me trying to do it. And it just would not stick. So if I was to do this again, I definitely would have made sure my bloody torch was charged before I started, like fully charged. Probably cut out the... God, I'm really yawning today. Oh. Probably would have cut out the petals like in advance, but this was literally a sort of project. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't really even know how to do it. I was just experimenting the whole time. So obviously you live and you learn. I would do some things slightly differently. I definitely would have made my petals ready-made. And I don't know what else I would have done differently, actually. I didn't... At one point, I try and make a stem, and that didn't go to plan, so I wouldn't bother doing that again, because it didn't go thin enough. But I did use some of the stem for another part. So there's a few things I might have done differently. Oh, look, here comes my niece. Sticking that down for me, because I was like, I can't hold this still. Bless her, she's a diamond. She loves helping me with nail stuff. So right, chuck that in for a full cure and do another one. So as you can see, with the wood shavings that I'm using now, you can see like all the marks on them. I'm trying to sort of bend them outwards a little bit. And then I'm sticking down the middle and then curving each edge round. This bit was like too blocky still. It needed to be a lot more round. So I'm just using nail scissors to cut all this wood because it's honestly so thin. It's really difficult to use and it's really delicate, and I broke so many pieces trying to do this. But we are gonna cover it all. So even though it's still got a little bit of flex to it now, it's not perfectly solid once it's complete, but it's not gonna be half as delicate as it is as I'm doing it now. And I just loved it. I've had so many people that now want me to make them a rose, and I'm like, oh, but they're so bloody fiddly. But I will make some more. I want to do them in lots of different colours as well, because this one I kept as quite sort of wooden natural colours. And I'd love to do one like in pink or in purple or in yellow or something. I think it would be really cool to do like a whole little sort of rainbow family of roses. But I do need to ask my boyfriend for some more wood shavings because I have run out of decent sized pieces. And these are pine wood shavings, if I remember rightly. He did also give me some mahogany wood shavings. So they're a darker wood, and I do use those as well. Originally, I actually wanted to, how can I explain this? Like double layer them. So I had pine on one side of each petal and mahogany on the other side of each petal. So it almost looked like shaving, like shadow, sorry, with each shaving. Ignore this bit. So I cut up these little pieces of pine for, there's like little leaves that come off the bottom of a rose before it goes down onto the stem. And I was going to use these, and I didn't in the end. I decided to go for the mahogany instead, so it had like a bit of a contrast of colour. Because I thought otherwise it's just going to be way too much of the pine, and it's all going to just be one colour and look a bit rubbish. So, ignore this. Oh my god, I'm yawning again. Has anyone else been completely messed up by the clock change? Or is it just me? Because I'm so damn tired. It's not even funny. But, never mind. I'll go over it. So, sticking down my, I think this is my last petal. I hope it's my last petal. This one really did not want to behave at all. It kept trying to sort of curl in on itself, and I was just like, do you know what? Curl in on yourself. That's fine. Stay where you are. And that's gone in for a full cure now for 60 seconds in my LED lamp. Then I'm just going to use my nail file just to go around the edges with a mandrel bit, just to sort of make that circle completely perfect, get rid of any sort of rough edges of gel that I've just sort of spilt everywhere. And some of the gel had kind of glooped into like where I am now, where I'm filing now. It kind of glooped and not made like an indent, and I wanted like a bit of an indent all the way around to add these bits of mahogany for these little leaves, which will make a lot more sense in a minute when I'm doing it. So I'm kind of going round with my file on an angle to make a bit of an indent all the way round for these little mahogany leaves to sit in. Otherwise they would have been sticking out and they would have looked bloody awful. And then I'm just going to go around the whole signature gel base just to sort of smooth it out, make sure there's no... That was my son. That was very loud. Make sure that there's no sort of sticky out bits or anything like that, and it's all nice and smooth to finish with before we start sticking on bits of mahogany. So that's the rose so far. I'm just going to top coat the bottom of this because obviously the signature gel like has a bit of a stick to it, like a bit of tackiness to it still. So I've just top coated the bottom of this so it's completely finished and completely sealed, and there's no tackiness or no sort of uncured product or anything like that sticking to me, because I should have worn gloves for this. I got a lot of product on my fingers, and that is a huge flipping no-no for me. I'm sort of really hot on that, but I could not wear gloves and handle this wood because I tried and the wood kept sticking to the gloves and making it rip, so I kind of had to do this without gloves on. And ignore the state of my nails right now because I know they're terrible. So I've tried to just get my bobby pin with a bit of blue tack on it to hold the rose while I do this. It didn't last very long because the blue tack just did not want to stick to the top coat because it was too much of a shiny surface, but never mind. I think I ended up just holding it upside down instead. I think. Oh no, maybe I did use the bobby pin. So these are the little bits of mahogany. As you can see, they're a different colour for the wood. I was going to try and do it in one big strip round the back of the rose, like around the bottom of the rose, but it wasn't going to bend enough or in the right way for what I needed it to. So I'm just going to chop this into several tiny, very small leaf shape sort of pieces. Luckily, this piece of mahogany that I've got, please excuse my yawning, oh my god. This little piece of mahogany was already like sort of curling round, which was perfect because I wanted these to curl from the rose and then outwards and down. So I'm going to use some rubber base coat. I sort of do a third of the mahogany leaves at a time. I'm just using my scissors incredibly gently to pick these up and put them into the rubber base coat because I could not find my tweezers anywhere at this point. I have found them now. This would have been so much easier with a set of tweezers, but I could not find them anywhere at the time. So I'm just going to stick these into the rubber base coat and then cure them for 60 seconds before moving on to the next bit until I've gone all the way around the rose. And remember, these are super delicate as well. Everything on here is incredibly breakable and delicate at the moment. But we are going to completely coat it in base coat and top coat, which doesn't make it solid, but it is going to make it a lot stronger than it is currently. So I'm going to pop that into the lamp and then keep going all the way round until the leaves are finished. And then this is base coat, normal base coat, not rubber base coat, just the normal base coat. And I'm going to have 3 big blobs of this. One blob I'm going to mix into a sheer colour. I'm using number 1 from the New York City Special Edition collection, which is a brown. And then I've got, I think it's Elegant 10. Yes, Elegant 10, which is a slightly darker brown. And I'm going to use these colours to mix like a sheer colour. This blob is going to have more colour in. This blob is going to have less colour in. And the other blob of base coat is going to stay completely clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the most concentrated mix of colour, which is this one, and go really sort of down into the base of the rose, making sure I'm not sort of getting any on the petals, because this is going to sort of give the illusion of depth and give like some shadow in between all of the petals, and just sort of make it look a bit more realistic. And then as I'm coming up the petals, like towards the top surface of the petals, I'm going to sort of blend in with the less concentrated colour in the base coat. And then as I get to the very outside edges of the petals, I'm going to be just using clear base coat just to sort of basically varnish it and resin it into place. But I wanted to sort of give this depth in between each of the petals. And then I'm going to blend that colour up with my less concentrated coloured base coat. And then I'm going on to the clear. So can you see that? So sort of deep colour, less colour, and then clear right at the top, so that you've just got that sort of dimension and depth to the rose. And I'm going to do that all the way around and make sure that everything, each side of each petal, is completely covered in base coat, whether that's coloured base coat or clear base coat, depends on which bit of the petal it is. So I'm going to go around and do all of that, which took a while, I'm not going to lie, but it made such a difference to how breakable the rose felt. So look, now I can hold it with my hand and I wasn't worried about sort of completely ruining it. So once that's done and it's had a 60-second cure in the lamp, although I think I actually did cure it for slightly longer just so that the light from the lamp could sort of get in all of the areas of the rose, I want this to be finished with a matte finish, because I want to use the tempering top coat from SBD London to like create little dewdrops on it. So that's all matte top coated now. I'm just gonna cover the little leaves in matte top coat as well. All of this has had a layer of base coat to sort of solidify it, and then matte top coat to make it not shiny. So it's got a bit more sort of stiffness to it now. Nowhere near as delicate as it was when it was just wood shavings, which was a relief because I did not want to get this far and then break it. So I tried to make a stem. I have got some of the slip solution, put it onto my gloves so that it doesn't stick to my gloves, and I'm using some of the signature gel to try and make a stem. And the idea for this was to make the stem, like make a sort of sausagey shape, like a thin sausage shape. I had way too much, so I got rid of some of it. Make a sort of long sausage shape and then wrap wood shavings around it and then cure it in the lamp to make like a solid wooden stem, and kind of using the signature gel as the backbone of the stem. It just didn't go as thin as I wanted it to, and it didn't look right when I kind of put it near the rose. So I didn't use this in the end, but I do use like the tail end of it, which I'll show you in a minute, for like kind of leaf bits on the side of the rose. So this is the bit of wood I was trying to wrap round the signature gel, like the little sausage that I made, and then I just wrap it round, squeeze it like I was squeezing out a flannel. I was trying to make the end of it quite flat as well so I could attach it to the rose, and then I kind of, like, you know how you squeeze out a flannel? Like round, 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 and squeeze. Like that. Just a bit like that. And then I twisted it and squeezed it and then popped it in the lamp. As I say, I didn't use this in the end, but I do cut off one of these ends with the pretty pine coming off of it, and I did use the end of this. And it did work and it was solid, but it just didn't go as thin as I wanted it to. It wasn't as delicate as I wanted it to look. It was too big, like proportionally for the rose, so it was just a no-no. This is 2 bits of mahogany that I completely forgot to start filming. I'm just doing it on some backing paper from one of the forms. It's 2 strips of mahogany, and then I've covered it in base coat to stick it together, popped it in the lamp, and then covered it in matte top coat to make it matte again. This is the cut off end of the stem I was using a minute ago, and I'm just going to use some rubber base coat to attach it to the base of my rose. As you can see, there you go. So it's kind of like just a bit of leafy flourish on the side. And these are the pieces, like the strips of mahogany. I cut them into leaf shapes, and they were way too big. So I then cut them down a lot smaller. And then I think I cut them down smaller again because I was like, these are way too friggin' massive. They are just too much for such a tiny, delicate rose. And then I used some of the pieces that I cut off to make like additional little 3D bits of the flower. That will make a lot more sense when I'm doing it. Again, I kept cutting them smaller and smaller and smaller until I was happy with the size. And I loved how the mahogany was like naturally curling over. I was like, yeah, that's about right. And then I sort of saw these little bits of mahogany that I'd cut off. So I used some rubber base coat to attach these little extra bits, just to sort of give it a bit more depth and dimension and make it even more 3D. And they were just cute. I thought they looked cute. So I'm going to stick them in there. Don't touch product with your fingers. Do as I say, not as I do. If this was nails, I promise I would have gloves on, but this was so fiddly to do. There's no way I would have been able to get this done with gloves on. So I'm going to stick those into the rubber base coat and pop that in for a cure before I then use the rubber base coat to attach it to the base of the rose, and then I'll give it a full 60-second cure in the lamp. There was kind of like a little dip in the base of the rose, so I was like, perfect. Fill that with rubber base coat and stick these leaves in. And then I'm just going to go over all of the leaves in matte top coat. I didn't base coat first on the leaves. I kind of wanted them to have a little bit more movement in them, so I've literally just matte top coated them, and they definitely are more delicate than the rest of the rose. I kind of wish I'd have base coated then matte top coated like I did with the rest of the rose, but never mind. Again, we live and learn, and if I do it again, I will base coat everything and then matte top coat over the top to give it that nice matte finish. And I loved this rose in matte. I think it just looked, I don't know, a little bit too fake when it was shiny. So now this is all matte, I'm just going to use my detailer brush and get little blobs of tempering top coat and pop them all over the rose and cure it. And then that's it. So it's all looks like it's all got like dewdrops all over it, which I kind of loved. And I really loved how this turned out and how it sort of went from how I sort of envisioned it. Ugh, I can't get my teeth in today. in my head to how it looks in real life. So thank you ever so much for watching, and thank you to my other half for giving me these wood shavings and running with one of my crazy ideas. And I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye!